I suppose given those improvements and enhancements and the fact that we're focusing on base rates, etc., what's the most fertile ground for new ideas as a result?
I think the market this time, the recovery that we've seen the past few months has been very narrow. So actually, the median stock in the US or Europe hasn't recovered as much as the index, not even close. Because it's been narrow, there are many industries that have gone way, way above what we're willing to pay, and many others are still fairly reasonable. So it's my first slice, and again, we're not kind of making a big macro call. We're just talking about where we seem to find ideas these days. Is more around industrials and more cyclical names, as opposed to, on the one hand, as opposed to the other extreme being more stable dividend paying stocks. Europe more than the US, for sure. And then more kind of philosophically, companies where there is an uncertainty about the timing of things, as opposed to whether something will happen, seem to be punished a lot more than normal the past few months, and many haven't recovered. So, I mean, Aubrey talked about the home builders earlier. We've seen the US recovery in home builders being so strong, and Toll Brothers just being the best performing stock this year. But the UK builders have actually not done well, even though both Aubrey and I are very confident that 5 years out, they present a terrific investment opportunity, but there's a lot of uncertainty about the when, as opposed to whether something would happen. Aubrey, I don't know, where have your ideas come from recently?
Well, certainly if we look to the future and where ideas are coming from, as you say, that sort of quality cyclicals, I think, is proven quite fertile. I mean, but the thing is, it is much, much more difficult than your Nestle's and your Unilevers of the world. You know, when you are looking at quality cyclicals, trying to really think about what normalized earnings looks like is, it's much more difficult. And hey, look, that's what you pay us for. And
we now actually have to work.
Yeah. But I think the thing is, people dismiss cyclicals as being low quality because of the variability in earnings. But actually, I'm sort of reminded of a fractal that yes, you actually probably have the same variability just over a different time frame. That the earnings of Brenntag are just as stable as the earnings of Unilever if you just look at it over time frame. If you extend it, all of a sudden the amplitude looks really ferocious at the moment, actually doesn't look so bad over a very long period of time. And you look at companies that we own, such as Brenntag, and we've actually seen the quality there really sort of play out. And so for us, the secret is how do we really think about normalizing some of these cyclicals, and how do we separate the wheat from the chaff? And it's and there is that's, I think, where a lot of our ideas could come from. And yes, Europe, as you say, I think European industrials. I mean, one thing that has sort of been just playing through my mind is that we have these huge multiples attached to software businesses that have, and we are assuming that these software businesses create so much value for their customers, and they do. We know they do. We bought SAP because they do create that much value. But here's the thing: they can't take all the value for themselves. Microsoft, SAP, Salesforce, they cannot take all the value for themselves. They have to give some value to their customers. And if the customers are going to receive all that value, then, you know, well, their multiples do not imply that they're going to get any value from it. So I think there is, you know, yeah, a lot to be looked at. But as I say, distinguishing the good from the bad can be is much more tricky.